We are at the forefront of many innovative and exciting things developing in the world of senior living. With Tim Mallett, CEO of Forefront Living, as our guide, this show will shine a light on how older adults can embrace these changes to live active, happy, fulfilling, and thriving lives. Through discussions with senior living and hospice professionals, architects and designers, and people of all ages, will help today's seniors envision the art of the possible and take steps toward achieving the future of their dreams. Welcome to At the Forefront.
Welcome to At the Forefront. I'm Tim Mallett, CEO of Forefront Living, and today we're going to continue our discussion with Steve Schneiderman. In our first segment with Steve, we talked about a passion for magic and the impact magic has on others. And as we near the end of the segment, Steve shared a diagnosis of cancer with us, and the fact that he is actually working with our organization through Faith Presbyterian Hospice. So welcome back, Steve.
Thank you.
Steve, we talked at the end of the last segment about your diagnosis and about the fact that you have been working with Faith. Tell me about the decision. First, tell me about the decision to go on hospice, and then tell me about the experience.
Well, I'm sure as most other cancer patients would agree with, treatment is never easy. And with it comes a great deal of side effects that can progressively get worse and impact the quality of your life over time. And I was never interested in, quantity of time. I wanted quality. So back in March, when I landed in the hospital with an infection, because my whole system was, my immunological system was so suppressed, they did a scan and found that I wasn't even responding to the initial chemo and immunotherapy treatments. And so I begged them to stop. And I said, let's just focus in on trying to have some quality time. They didn't really agree with me that I was being treated by 3 different doctors, and they thought that they could tweak things to give me more time. And I kept telling them, if the end game is the same, I'm going to die of cancer anyway. Why are we stretching this out? Let's just focus on making my final days good days. And so they introduced me to the doctor of palliative care at Baylor Scott, and she spent about an hour and a half with me to make sure that I really understood my diagnosis, that I really understood where I was on my journey. And she, at the end, said I had a stellar understanding, and that if she was in my shoes, she would also opt to stop treatment and to focus on just having quality time. And so she said that there were a couple of organizations, but there was one in her heart that held a special place. And she mentioned Faith Presbyterian, and she mentioned the fact that it had also been funded and started, I guess, by T. Boone Pickens. And when my wife and I heard that, we stopped and froze, because my wife's dad grew up with T. Boone Pickens, and they were very close friends. And so we recognized at that point that God was pointing all fingers in that direction. And we arranged for a tour of the facility. And it was indeed a place that did not feel like where people go to die, but where people go to live and transition, which is what I was looking for eventually. And when we met the home hospice team and Rhonda, I was just bowled over, because I was expecting kind of this institutional approach to death. And instead I got this incredibly big-hearted little woman who she spared nothing to make sure I understood what this journey was going to be like and what I could expect from her. And we become close friends. And it's been a great experience. And I can't say enough for those who are wrestling with the decision to stop treatment, continue treatment, do hospice, not do hospice. Home hospice is not a death sentence. And I would say that it's important for people to remember that living and dying is an experience that is meant to be done with each other and not by yourself. You can't do it alone. And Rhonda's really helped make a lot of things easier for me.
It's interesting, Steve. When we were preparing for this, I sometimes prepare notes, and I was thinking about, and Rhonda is actually here with us. She's seated to the right of me, introducing Rhonda as your hospice nurse. And I quickly realized, and you said it, that the two of you have a friendship. I think in preparation for the interview, I asked for some quotes about how you would describe Rhonda. And for those of you who work with Faith or you work at Forefront and you know Rhonda, these will come as no surprise. First quote, she's the little drill sergeant that I need in my life. Second quote is, she doesn't tell me what I want to hear, she tells me what I need to hear. So welcome, Rhonda Taylor-Blair.
Thank you.
Rhonda, you've been with Faith Presbyterian Hospice for about 12 years, worked a couple of years somewhere else. And as we prepared, I also caught on that you and Steve have a very, very special relationship. Can you talk to us about that and
We
how
do.
that's developed?
We do. It started out definitely work related. I'm not one to sugarcoat anything, and I'm going to tell you what you need to expect, and I'm going to do it kindly and professionally, but I think the way that I tell you, it kind of helps Steve and his wife to understand that these things are going to happen. They're not going to happen today. They're not going to happen tomorrow. But by the end of this journey, these things are going to happen. And just this week, Steve's had a lot of changes physically in this journey.
So Rhonda, Steve talked about, and I think having that realization and having a physician who agreed with him about the quality versus the quantity. Can you talk to us about situations and individuals like Steve who decide to engage hospice early and the impact that has?
So the benefit of hospice early is the whole embodiment of treatment that you get. You get spiritual care, emotional, you get care from a nurse, you get care from the team, from the entire team. Whereas if you come in late and you don't get the full benefit, you come in late, you get the treatment to make you comfortable and you're gone. Steve, we've made sure that he got to go on vacation. He's been doing work. He just backed off on his work a couple of weeks ago, down to just a couple hours a day. And
He did mention that earlier.
we were able to work around his work schedule so that he could work and just boost him up. It wasn't until the last few weeks that we had to really put some medications on him so that he was comfortable, so that he could continue to function, continue to enjoy his family, enjoy River, the dog, and still walk River and go to dinner and enjoy life.
Steve, how has Rhonda helped you during this journey?
Well, they talk about the different stages that you have facing cancer and facing death. And I had really gotten 3 great months, where I felt fine. I was pain-free. I was at the top of my game work-wise. Microsoft, my employer, wanted me to work as long as I wanted to. And I still felt vital, and it was like therapy for me. And so I don't think I could have done all that without Rhonda and the team behind me cheering me on and measuring me, every week and providing kind of like tweaks, and when it was time to back off, it broke my heart to have to stop work. But it was the right thing to do, because right now I need to focus in on pain management so I can still have some quality time left. My kids are coming in mid-September, and I want to be here for them. And so, I'm hanging on, and I could only do that with the help of Rhonda and the team.
Steve, you mentioned the team. There are others that you're working with as well. Can you tell us who they are from Faith?
Yeah, I have a social worker that also drops by. I have a pastor that comes by. In fact, he's coming tomorrow to baptize me again, which is kind of a final request. And there is a secondary nurse also. that alternates with Rhonda when Rhonda can't make it. And there's just other people in the background that have just called to kind of cheer me on and to arrange these types of interviews to share my story. And that's important to me because I think everybody wants to know that when they've passed, that somehow they've left somewhat of a legacy behind and that they've left the world a little bit better in some shape or form. And it's always been very important to me in the past, couple of years, both at work and in my other, phases of my life. And so I feel like, working with this team has given me the time I needed to do that. And it's made it a lot easier to face the illness and what's coming.
Rhonda, you've worked with a lot of different individuals over your career. I sense a very good and deep friendship here. What has Steve taught you? What have you learned from him?
Strength. That it doesn't matter how bad it is. You woke up and it's a good day.
Mm-hmm.
Steve, you talked about that legacy. And when we talked about magic and we talked about life, we talked about so many things when we were preparing for this. You mentioned the people that you're hearing from. You mentioned impact and the importance of hearing that. Can you tell us about that and about that legacy?
Yeah, I mean, most people, I think, go to their deathbed, kind of to Rhonda's early point, coming in late into hospice. They go to the hospice facility, they get hooked up to sedation, they go into a deep sleep, and 3 days later, hopefully they pass peacefully. But they never know the impact they made on other people's lives. And I put this really truly on the team that has been serving me, because they've supported me and kept my spirits up and kept me motivated and kept me on a path of reality. I was able to in May sit in and go through a celebration of life at work. My company, Microsoft, did a celebration of life, and I got to hear from dozens of people about these little anecdotal stories about ways I have impacted them personally, professionally, spiritually, which I had absolutely no idea. And it kind of answered the question, did I make a difference? And I have. And that was really important to me. And subsequently, through social media reposts of some of the things I'm doing with you guys and my own health updates that I put out there, I can't believe the people that have come out from my past 40 years who, either I worked with or maybe I sold something or maybe we were just passing friends at church, and they've told me, I learned this from you and I'll never forget you. It means a lot.
Steve, when many of us interact with someone who has a terminal diagnosis or a short time, it can be very uncomfortable to interact, or especially someone like me who's always afraid of saying the wrong thing. What recommendations would you have for them? What would you tell them?
Just be a good listener. Yesterday I had a friend who I hadn't spoken with in a number of years back in Tulsa, and I said, let's just do a Zoom call, no pressure, because he wanted to say goodbye, and the second he got on, he kind of broke down in tears, and that's happened a lot, and so I just said, tell you what, just listen and let me tell you my story of the past 9 months. And that's what I did. And when we were done, he felt much better because he understood where my heart was. He understood what was coming next and the timing. And he didn't feel like he had to try to figure out something, special to say, like from the back of a Hallmark greeting card. He was just able to say, I'm going to miss you, buddy, and this is what it's meant to be your friend. And so that's all I need, just people who listen.
Same question for you, Rhonda.
I tell families all the time, they're like, what do I say? Can they hear me? Do they know I'm here? And I tell them, they hear every word that you say. And you need to tell them what you want to. Tell them how mad you were when you were 6 years old and you didn't get that toy. Tell them what it meant when you bought them their first car. Tell them what lessons you learned from them. Tell them you're going to miss them, but tell them you're going to be okay because of what you taught. And that's what everybody needs to remember.
Steve, as we conclude this segment, just reflecting in the past half hour, it's been a fun half hour. It's been full of laughs, positivity, forward look, discussion of impact. There's a spirit that you have of confidence and peace and joy. And where is that coming from, Steve?
Well, in all honesty, back when I got diagnosed, I was like anybody else, just, dumbfounded, and my heart ached. And that Christmas Eve last December, I stood in church with my family around me, and I thought, oh my God, this is my last Christmas with my family. And I've never felt lower, but I begged God for a new heart. I said, please give me a different way to look at this. And on Christmas Day, when I awoke, instead of that negative outlook, I said, thank God that I was there. And so that's the way I approach every day. I look up at the sky and I say, God, thank you for another day. Show me how to use today wisely. And don't ever let my heart feel that sadness again, because I have you and I know where I'm going. And I'm anxious to get there.
Well, Steve, Rhonda, thank you for joining us at the forefront. Steve, thank you for making a difference today. Thank you for having an impact on all of us. And thank everyone for joining us at the forefront.